Have a Ferris is700z that won't crank? Replace the starter and solenoid still won't crank. Don't know how or in what order to test safety switches.
When did you last clean or perform maintenance on your Ferris tool or machine? How old is it?
2017. 130 hours. No maintainable that I know of.
How long has this been going on with your Ferris? What have you tried so far?
First start of the year. Set out in weather this winter. Replace starter and solenoid.
Anything else we should know to help you best?
Don't know how or in what order to test safety switches.
Hi, my name is will be assisting you. Do you have a voltmeter? On your starter solenoid there are two small wires at the base of the solenoid. Tell me if you have DC volts coming to either one of those wires when the ignition key is turned to the start position.
Main wires have 12V. Wire with clip no power.
Both of the main wires have 12V? When you say main wires, I am assuming that you are referring to the larger battery cable wire and then the wire from the solenoid over to the starter.
Battery cable has a small wire also. We didn't test the wire from solenoid to the starter.
The small wire that is attached to the same post as the battery cable is feeding voltage back to the ignition switch in order to make it work. There is a fuse in that wire, usually within about 6 inches of the solenoid. Can you send me a picture of the starter solenoid?
Customer attachment April 19, 2020 9:56 and 54 seconds p.m. Is this a fuse you're talking about? I will resend the customer attachment April 19, 2020 9:58 and 29 seconds p.m. Neither of the small wires have power. Second picture. Is this the fuse?
That is not a fuse, however it is a circuit breaker which acts just like a fuse. Looking at the picture, the one side of it looks really rusty. You might want to clean the contacts on it where the wires plug onto it just to make certain that it is making good connection. You can also check or test it with your voltmeter just like you would a fuse. Set your meter to ohms and check across the two terminals on the circuit breaker. I want to focus on the small wire that is connected to the spade terminal on the solenoid. Do you have voltage on that wire?
No.
On the circuit breaker that you sent a picture of. Do you have voltage on both sides of it with the wires attached? I should have asked if there is voltage on the small wire that is connected to the spade terminal on the solenoid when you turn the ignition key to the start position.
Voltage on both sides of circuit breaker. No voltage on space terminal wire.
That being the case, then you either have a bad ignition switch or a safety switch that is not allowing voltage to pass through over to the starter solenoid. Can you send me a picture of the ignition switch terminals with the wiring connector plugged on the switch as well as with the connector removed? Can you also locate the model number of the machine? It should start with a 590 and it should be on a tag on the frame of the mower.
Connected the seat safety switch and retested the terminal wire, but voltage was all over the place. Model Ferris is700z.
What happens now if you connect the wire to the solenoid and try to start the engine?
Nothing.
The is700z is a series number, not the actual model number. There is a model tag on the frame of the machine that will have the actual model and serial number on it. The model number will start with a 590.
Where on the frame?
You have a problem most likely in one of the safety switches on the machine that is causing you to not get the 12 volts to the solenoid. If you can get me pictures of the ignition switch terminals with wiring connected as well as with wiring removed, I will tell you how to bypass the safety switches to verify that one of them is bad. I am sorry, but Ferris does not show that to be a good model number.
Customer attachment April 19, 2020 10:31 and 10 seconds p.m.
This looks like a new ignition switch, am I correct?
Original.
Look closely at the terminals on the switch. Do you see the letters on them? Try to get me a picture of the letters on the terminals. In the meantime, with the connector unplugged from the switch, test the voltage on the red wire in the connector and let me know what you have on that wire.
Clockwise from ground G, L, M, S, B. 12 V.
Just so that I know that I follow you correctly on the terminal locations, S is the top single terminal that is by itself, correct? Plug the connector back onto the switch, either mount the switch back into the dash or ground it against something metal nearby. Check the voltage on the yellow wire on the back of the switch when the ignition key is turned to the start position, and let me know what you have.
11 V.
If you have some spare wire, you can run a wire from that terminal direct down to the spade terminal on the starter solenoid, and it should crank the engine when you turn the ignition key to start. The S terminal with the yellow wire on it.
It cranked. What does that mean?
You have a safety switch in the system that is bad and not allowing it to crank the engine.
Which one? Any idea? How do we test them? Seat switch is good. The others have 4 poles.
You have one of 2 options. Trace the wiring and figure out which one of the safety switches are causing the problem. Run the wire from the switch to the solenoid like you have it currently and leave it that way. The only problem with doing it this way is all of the safety switches are bypassed and the mower or engine will continue to run all of the time until you turn the key off. This can be dangerous if you get off of the mower or fall off, especially with the blades engaged. It will also allow the engine to crank over and start even if the drive control levers are in forward or reverse.
Which 2 of the 4 wires on each switch do I cross to check?
If you want to trace the problem, start at one of the safety switches and work your way around the system. Unplug the connector going into the safety switch and pump a jumper wire between the 2 yellow wires in the connector and then try to start the engine. If it doesn't start, then plug the connector back in and move on to the next switch until you do get it to crank or start, then that will be the bad switch. I am including a wiring schematic of an is700z that should be helpful to you. Thank you for choosing to use our services. Please take a moment to rate your experience using the star rating system that is provided for you.
Thank you so much. God bless you and stay away from the COVID-19.
You are welcome.
Fabulous.
Glad that I could assist you today.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit JustAnswer.com/YTHI.